Okay, so I got a brand new Playnite setup guide for you today. And if you're new to Playnite, I'll just say in essence, it's pretty much a free alternative to Launchbox. So if you're new to this, I'm going to go through the initial setup process of getting you started with Playnite, and it's pretty simple, but a bit more complex. I'm going to be showing you how to import DuckStation, and DuckStation is obviously probably the best PlayStation 1 emulator out there nowadays. And we can actually upscale our games to 4K in DuckStation. So I'm going to cover all that in this video. I'm also going to show you how to configure your controllers in DuckStation and pretty much everything else which comes along with getting a really good experience using DuckStation in Playnite. So check this one out. Okay, so if you're new to my channel and you like what you see today, be sure to hit notification, subscribe, and like so you don't miss up and coming content. So I cover other front-end systems on my channel here, JustJamie, and that's RetroBat, Launchbox, RetroArch, Batacera, a Raspberry Pi, and the list goes on. I got a lot of content for retro emulation on my channel, but today we're looking at Playnite and DuckStation. We're actually going to set up Playnite first, and this is a very easy process to do. It's just a case of going to the Playnite website, and this is going to give you some information on what Playnite can do. So just scroll down and then just go to download, and this is now going to download Playnite. So once you downloaded your Playnite installer.exe, just double left click on this one. And the first thing you're going to see is install Playnite. Now, instead of installing straight away, if you actually go to options, we can choose a destination where you want Playnite to install to. So if you want easy access to Playnite and the folders, rather than it going somewhere in your hard drive, you're not sure where, just right click on your desktop, go to new, folder, and just call it something like Playnite so everything's easy to find. And then change your destination folder to where you're going to want that installed to. So desktop for me and Playnite, and I'm going to press OK. And just bear in mind, we've also got a portable version of this to install to. So I'm going to press install on this, and we're going to just wait a couple of minutes for this to download everything and install into that folder I've just made. So once you've installed it, Playnite's going to open up. It's going to boot automatically, but we've got nothing in there yet. So what we're going to need to do is actually now install DuckStation. So I'm going to go to the DuckStation website. And again, DuckStation is absolutely free, and you can actually use this on Android or phones or whatever. But I'm going to go to the Windows tab and just download this. And bear in mind that DuckStation does require Visual C++. So if you don't have that installed on your computer, just go to download VC++ RT. I'm going to just do this for you. Just download that. And just keep it if you should get a blocked dangerous come up. It's absolutely fine. So just keep that and open up your VC underscore redist. And in my case, it's saying repair. Now, if you don't have it installed on your computer, it's going to say installed. But if you do have it installed, like myself, it's going to say repair. So that's about it for installing Visual C++. And then once you've done that, we're going to go to download Duck. So once you've downloaded DuckStation, let's just delete that install file of Playnite. We no longer need that because we've now got it installed into that Playnite folder, which is just here. Now, DuckStation itself is going to download into a compressed zipped folder. So if we just double left click on that, that's our contents of it. And what I'm going to do is just create a new folder on my desktop for DuckStation. So right click, if you go down to new folder, just call this whatever you want. I'm going to call it DuckStation. And I'm going to left click on all the contents inside of that DuckStation zip folder I've just downloaded and just drag it all inside of that DuckStation new folder I've just created on my desktop. So once you've done that, you can now delete that DuckStation zipped file you've just downloaded from the website. And let's actually start by setting up DuckStation itself. So just go into that folder, and the file you're looking for to run this is this one here. This is DuckStation Qt times 64. So just double left click on that exe. Now, the first thing you're going to see in here is that it's needing to find a directory for your games. And it's also telling us that the file extensions for games that we need can be in .q, and that's going to be accompanied with .bin files, ISO images, and so on. It supports a lot at this point. So what I've got on my desktop is a Colin McRae Rally game for PS1. What I'm going to do is actually put that folder inside of a new folder, and I'm going to just call this one PS1 Games. And if I drag my Colin McRae Rally inside a PS1 Games folder, here's my Colin McRae Rally, and inside I've got .q, and as we know, DuckStation supports this. So I'm going to go to Add Game Directory. So we need to link up DuckStation with my PS1 games folder I've created. So Add Game Directory, and my game directory of PS1 games is on my desktop. So just go to Desktop, PS1 games, just highlight that by left clicking on it, select folder, and it's now going to scan it if we give it permission. So just press yes on this. And there we go. Now, obviously, that scanning process is going to take longer if you've got several games, but in my case, it's done it straight away. Now, next thing we need to do in DuckStation is add BIOS files. So you can check out which BIOS files you need for this on something like Google. But what we're going to do to add these is by going to Settings, if you just go down to the BIOS tab, you need to have your BIOS files inside of a folder somewhere. And once you put these BIOS files inside, it's just a case then of going to Browse and getting DuckStation to scan those files. So I've already got mine in place. So I'm going to select Folder and just go to Close. So we got the BIOS files in place. So let's actually try and start Colin McRae Rally to see if this is going to work. So I'm just going to double left click on this. As we just seen, DuckStation is running perfectly with my Colin McRae Rally game, but it's not supporting a controller yet. I've got a PlayStation 3 6-axis controller plugged in through USB, so we now need to configure the controllers for DuckStation to play our games. So to do this, we're going to go to Settings, and if I just go down to Controllers, if we just go to Controller Port 1 Analog Controller, now, under here, you've got controller type. So, analog controllers for PS1 came a little bit later in the PS1 life, as I remember. So, you've got an option here to select which type of PS1 controller you want to emulate. So, I'll just leave this a digital controller, which is the original PS1 controller without those analog sticks, and that's what I had back in the day originally. So what we need to do now is set these buttons up to correspond with the PS3 that I've got plugged in, and just bear in mind this emulator is going to support most controllers out there, so even Xbox or third-party Xbox or PlayStation knockoff controllers should work fine with this. So I'm going to start with D-pad and press up. And on my controller, I'm also going to press up. And as you can see, by pressing up on my PS3 controller, that's now changed. So that's going to be reading my D-pad up button on my PS3 controller. And we can do this on left as well. So I'm pressing left on my D-pad on my PS3 controller, and right and down. Now, L2, that's going to be obviously, if you've got an L2 button on a controller you're using with this, just press L2 and R2. L1, so obviously L2 is your back bumper if you're going to be using a PlayStation controller for this, and L1 is the bumper on the front, and R1 Select, obviously press select on your controller, start, and we got triangle. So luckily enough for me, these controllers haven't changed. We've still got triangle, cross and circle in 2023. So once you've mapped this out, what we're next going to do is just go down to new profile and just give this a name. So I'm going to call it JustJamie, and you call it whatever you want. So okay, and just press yes on this. When you close DuckStation down, if you find your settings aren't there, your controller isn't working, technically, if you go to load profile, you should find your profile name that you just set. So just press yes, and that should then load up your settings that you just made. So let's close this down and just boot up Colin McRae Rally again, and I'm going to see if my controller is now working with this. So also with DuckStation, we've got the option, if you've been previously playing a game, it's going to give us an option if we want to load a game, load state, fresh boot of it. So let's just go for a load state. And now my PlayStation 3 controller is actually working. We're going to get to video settings in a minute, and I'm going to show different bits and pieces, such as changing back-end drivers in case your games don't boot when they should be. And if you check in the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see this is actually running at 60 FPS right now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Over crest. Over crest. Into 1 right. Into 3 left. 4 left. Square right. Don't cut. Fence. 1 left. 4 right.
As we can see, that's running fine. So what I'm going to do next, before importing everything into Playnite, I'm going to just go through some enhancements with you to make this look better. And obviously we want this to launch into a full screen mode rather than Playnite launching it into this window mode, as we can see. So if I go to settings, go down to display. Now, what I was saying a minute ago about back-end drivers, this is currently being rendered using hardware DirectX 11. So if you've got a game which should be running and it's not running, try changing your render. So for example, a really good render to use is actually hardware Vulkan. So if you're using a graphics card, if you select Vulkan, adapter is going to appear. And if you've got a graphics card, like I have here, I've got an RTX 3050, just select on that. And obviously that's going to give you more power if you want to upscale your PS1 games to 4K and do this and that. So whilst we're in this settings mode just here, if you just check on VSync, that's going to take away any screen tear. And of course, PS1 had plenty of 3D games. It was the era of everything's gone 3D mad. Aspect ratio. Now, by default, this should be set by 4:3. When PS1 came out, the world was still using the old style TVs. But you've got an option here to put this on the 16:9. It might stretch the image a little bit, but if you want a 4 screen mode, select this one for now. And I also recommend for a better picture, under integer scaling, put this one on. It's going to take away part of the full screen partially, but it's going to condense it and make it a little bit better. So just check that one to on. And if we go to Enhancements tab, Internal Resolution Scale, if your computer can handle this, you've got the option, like I've been saying, to upscale your games to 4K. But just remember, that's going to be pretty wearing on computers which can't handle things like that very well. So if your game should lag and you've got this set to 4K, it's worth going back to 1080p. So just remember, PS1 was actually something like 480p or 480 interlaced. So even if you upscale this to 720p, technically PS1 couldn't do that, so this is a major upgrade in itself. But I'm going to just go for 1080p, which is quite an acceptable internal resolution to have. And if we go to texture filtering, we can apply filters to this. So again, just like internal resolution, if you start playing around with texture filtering and you find games are lagging, your catalyst is likely going to be due to this if you select one of these here. So I find that bilinear works pretty well for me. And if you just go up to the top just here under general, like I was saying just a minute ago, we want Playnite to boot up our games in full screen mode. So from general under game display, you're going to find start full screen, and that's going to boot our games directly into full screen. So just make sure that one's checked. And if we just go down to BIOS again, you've got an option here called Fast Boot. And what that does, if you enable this, just checking it, it's going to take away that boot up screen which the PlayStation has got. So if you want to bypass that and go straight into the games, then just check on this one. Personally, for a whole nostalgic experience, don't check this one, but that's entirely up to you. Now, for those out there who likes using retro achievements, DuckStation actually supports this nowadays. So I'm going to take you over to the Retro Achievements website and show you what this is. So this is Retro Achievements. It's absolutely free to sign up. And what this does is actually rewards you for playing your retro games. So for example, if you're playing something like Crash Bandicoot, if you do something, just like on a modern day achievement system, you'll get a little notification and even a sound come up saying that you've achieved something. So Retro Achievements is going to be linked in my description, and it's a really great feature to have on these old games. So I totally recommend it. And it's just a simple case of going to sign up and just popping in your email address. They'll send you a notification. And once you enable achievements just here, you can then go to login and then just pop in your username and password. And then you are linked up with Retro Achievements through DuckStation. Pretty cool stuff. So I think that's about it for your video settings and retro achievements. So let's boot up Colin McRae Rally with those video settings I've just applied and see what this looks like before actually importing everything into Playnite. So double left click, and I'm going to go with load state.
Five, four, three, two, one, go. Over crest. Over crest. Into one right. Into three left. Four left.
So as you can see, massive improvements. But if we press escape on the keyboard, we can then go into settings if we're in full screen mode. So let's just close the game for now. And once you do that, you can also save state and exit. So I'm going to just exit and save state. And that's going to bring us back to the Windows mode of DuckStation. Now, as I said just now, if you apply integer scaling, it's not going to be completely full screen. So let me just take you back to this so you know the difference between what I've done. If we go back to settings and just go down to enhancements again. Firstly, I'm actually going to put this one up to 4K. Now, just be cautious. If you do start upscaling, a lot of the polygon graphics are going to be very visible in your game. So those lines, that type of thing, which PlayStation was famous for with those polygon shapes, some of those lines are going to be very obvious. So just be aware of that before upscaling everything. So I applied interscale just a minute ago, which is just here. This is integer scaling. So if I uncheck this one, what I'm going to do now is just close out of this and just show you the difference between disabling integer scaling. So we should get a full screen this time. So if I go back into Colin McRae and load state, and here we go.
right, don't cut, fence. 1 left. 4 right. Long 5 left, tightens, over crest.
So as we can see, that looks really cool, but you also notice if you look close enough, you'll see lines appearing. And of course, that's from the edges of those polygons that was used during that era of gaming. So I'm going to press escape again to exit from this. And you've also got the options to save and load state just here, as you can see. Lots of settings there to play with, but I'm going to close game and just exit and save state. So that's pretty much your DuckStation element of this setup guide sorted out. We've now got the task of importing this into Playnite. So if we open up Playnite again. Right, so we got everything set up with DuckStation, so we can now start importing the emulator and the games into Playnite. So we're going to start off with the emulator first. So we're going to go over to the controller in the top left and just go down to Library, Configure Emulators. And once we're inside Configure Emulators, what we're first going to do is just go to Add, which you can find at the bottom. And under Add, under Name, just delete New Emulator and just rename this to DuckStation. Installation folder needs to be where DuckStation is located. So for me, it's on Desktop DuckStation. Just highlight that folder and select folder. Emulator specification, just drop this down and find DuckStation. And next thing we need to do is add, and you can find add just here under profiles. And what I'm going to do from here is just select built-in profile default, and under name, delete default and call this DuckStation. Built-in profile needs to be on default, that's the option you got. And just go down to override emulator arguments and type in this argument. So just type in this custom argument as I'm going to put in. So just type in this custom argument that I'm going to put in and just go very careful how you're typing this, otherwise your games aren't going to launch. So we got image, and image is spelled with a capital I, followed by path, which is in capital P. And we want one of these odd bracket things. I'm not quite sure what those are called, but yeah. And that's it. So we're now going to go to save. And we're going to want to import our games as well. That's the whole point of Playnite. We want our games to look visually stunning. So we're going to go to the controller again, add game, emulated game, and then just go to add scanner, scan with emulator, DuckStation, and profile, DuckStation. And under scan folder, just link this up to where your PS1 games are on your computer. So as you know, mine are on my desktop, and I'm going to just select that folder and start scan. And we now have Colin McRae Rally, which has been scanned. And we're going to press import. And as we can see, we now got Colin McRae Rally. So let's just double left click on this and boot up the game.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Over crest. Over crest. Into 1 right. Into 3 left. 4 left. Square right. Don't cut. Fence. 1 left. 4 right.
And if I press escape on my keyboard, like I say, we can actually close our games from here and exit in save state. That's fine. So, randomly, little bit of pointless but useful information is that the modern day dirt games are actually Colin McRae rally games. Something to do with licensing. There's no longer allowed to use Colin McRae. But anyway, dirt games are pretty cool too. So, we're going to go back to Playnite again. And if you're new to Playnite, we can mess around with some settings here. If we go up to this grid view, we can get our game displayed. And most of the time, Playnite will automatically scrape you artwork for your games. We've also got this one just here where you can put your game on the side. And Playnite also features a full screen mode. So if we go back to that controller and go down to switch to full screen mode and just make a mental note that F11 is going to exit from this full screen mode. And there we go. And we've actually got some cool music in the background to go with this. And if we press start on the controller game options, we got a variety of different options here. So we can add it to favorites if you've got a collection of games and enable HDR support. So there we go. Lots to play with in Playnite. So that's it for my Playnite and Duckstation setup guide today. Like I said at the start of the video, if you like what you see today, hit notifications, subscribe and like. And also check out my other setup guides for Playnite. I've got a few in there now, including Amiga and PS2, PSX2, as well as a general setup guide for new users of Playnite. And also be sure to check out my other playlists. I mainly do a lot of RetroBat content, and RetroBat is a front-end emulation system for PC, and it's very cool. I also do RetroArch setup guides, Launchbox setup guides, Batacera, even Android setup guides today I'm currently doing, so they're pretty interesting. So those I cover a lot of emulation for retro games on my channel nowadays. So before I go, just also check me out on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And what I'm actually asking for at the moment is small donations to my channel to enhance my channel, to make it better. I'm currently looking at doing setup guides on portable devices. So check that out. And until next time, stay retro.